Guys, welcome to the video. In this video, I will discuss exercise rotation and why you shouldn't switch up your exercises that often. Now hear me out. There is this big misconception and a big myth from the past that tells you that you should switch up your exercises pretty frequently in order to keep your body guessing and to keep your body stimulating new muscle growth. But that is actually a misconception, because what this myth is telling you, what people used to believe, is that your body shouldn't adapt to a certain movement in order to keep making progress. But that actually goes against the reality, because the reality is that you want to keep making progress because you adapt to a certain movement. For example, the barbell bench press is a compound exercise that mainly hits the chest muscles, if done correctly. Now, if you take the bench press as your main chest builder and you perform that exercise consistently over the course of 3 to 6 months, you will notice that you will have gotten stronger, that you can perform more reps with more weight. You have overall gotten more efficient at that movement due to two things: due to neurological efficiency, because you have performed the movement pretty frequently and consistently, that you have become better at performing this movement with proper technique and your central nervous system has adapted. And the second thing is you can produce more force because you have more muscle mass on your frame, since that is a byproduct of repeatedly performing this movement. Now, if you were to switch up your chest exercises all the time, for example, one day you perform the bench press, the other day you perform a chest fly, the other day you perform an incline press, that is not optimal. And why isn't that optimal? Because you are not allowing your body to adapt to one specific movement, one or two specific movements. And I am not saying that you can't add other movements to your chest workouts. I'm simply saying the basics should mainly stay the same. Now, I'm talking about your main foundational compound exercise here, your key exercises that will give you the most bang for your buck. For example, the best exercises for overall growth that will give you the most return of your investment when it comes to training are the bench press, the overhead press, the weighted chin-up, the squat, the Romanian deadlift, and the row, the upper back row. If you are consistent with those exercises, if you do these and make progress on them, perform enough volume on them, you will inevitably become more muscular, you will become stronger, and you will simply look bigger and better. When it comes to smaller exercises, you have more freedom in rotating those. And I'm not saying, like I said, that you should rotate these exercises all the time. I am not saying that you should switch it up each week. But there is a thing that is realistic, and that is overuse. You see, if you are lifting heavy weights consistently, you are also putting a strain on your tendons and your joints. While muscles don't know anything other than tension, they don't care where the tension comes from. And your joints and tendons will take a beating if you keep lifting heavy consistently over long time periods. While I wouldn't switch out your big exercises necessarily, you can do a different variation of them. For example, if your main chest builder is, for example, the barbell bench press, switch to a dumbbell bench press, or perform one heavy set on your barbell bench press between 1 and 3 reps, so that you keep being efficient at performing that movement, so that you keep your strength at that movement, but then perform your accessory volume work with, for example, the dumbbell bench press or dumbbell incline press for that matter. The thing is, if you are a beginner, this shouldn't be a concern. Even when you are an intermediate, that shouldn't be a concern. But once you are past the mid-intermediate to advanced stage, then things will become realistic, where you may have to switch up your exercises. And I'm not necessarily saying that you eliminate an exercise completely, but I'm saying perform a different variation of that exercise, that still hits those muscle groups that you want to target in order to slightly get a different movement pattern that frees up room for recovery for the joints and tendons. For example, my main back exercise is the weighted chin-up. It is the all-around best back builder that there is, in my opinion, and it builds a pretty sweet bicep as well. However, I love performing my chin-ups like this, but I notice when I do them for too long, if I do it for like 8 to 12 weeks with heavy weight, my wrists and my elbows start hurting a little bit. While there is no substitute for that movement pattern, what I do when that happens is I switch to a neutral grip. Essentially, I train the same muscles with a slight different nuance of which head of the biceps that I'm training. But honestly, visually, you won't see any difference. What you will notice is that when you switch from this position to a neutral grip, for example, your wrists will feel way less stress. They will recover, your joints will feel amazing. And sure, switching to this variation, to a neutral grip variation, will allow you to use a little less weight. But that is not necessarily a bad thing, because when you will go back to the supinated grip, you will be as strong or even stronger than you were before, because your tendons and joints have recovered from the strain of performing the same movement, and you have allowed your joints and tendons to recover properly. When it comes to a back squat, for example, you could switch over to a front squat. When it comes to a Romanian deadlift, you can do a stiff-legged deadlift. An overhead press can be switched out for dumbbell overhead presses or single arm presses. You will still build muscle. You will still hit the same muscle groups, but you allow your body to recover. But like I said, don't switch up exercises each and every week. Go through phases. Exercise rotation shouldn't be misused, it shouldn't be abused, it should be a tool for you to make progress over the long term. Stick to performing one exercise 3 to 6 months, make solid progress on that, and if you notice that you get overuse injuries or that you get nagging pains, switch over to a different variation of that exercise. Like I said, if strength is of a concern for you, I would always perform one heavy set. So when you do rotate exercises, I would always perform one heavy set of your main exercise. For example, in this case, I will use the overhead press as an example. If your main shoulder builder, as it should be, is the overhead press, the barbell overhead press, and that is a performance lift that allows you to get very strong on. If you feel like your elbows are nagging a little bit or your shoulders are nagging a little bit from that movement, and you feel like it's time to switch it up in order to allow your body and your tendons to heal, your joints to heal, perform one heavy set of overhead presses between 1 to 3, maybe 5 reps, so that you keep your strength on that movement, you keep being efficient at that movement, you keep the skill of strength and execution. And after that set, you switch over to, for example, dumbbell overhead presses or single arm dumbbell overhead presses, seated, standing, whatever what allows you to get in a proper training stimulus, and you keep getting stronger on that exercise, you keep progressing on that exercise for again about 3 to 6 months. When you feel like you have recovered and you feel like switching it up, then you can go back to the standing shoulder press, for example. But that is out of necessity and out of functionality, not out of confusing the muscles. Muscles don't get confused, guys. Muscles only know tension. They don't give a damn where the tension comes from. Exercise rotation is a tool that you use to prevent overuse injuries and will only be necessary once you've been lifting for a couple of years and once you've been hitting specific hard numbers, not when you were starting out. So don't sabotage your own progress by switching it up each and every workout or even each and every week. pick 1 or 2 main compound exercises, 1 or 2 key lifts per muscle group. For example, when you are building up your chest, use the barbell bench press and the incline press, for example. Stick to those movements for, if you are a novice, at least a year or 2 years even. But when you hit the late intermediate phase and you notice that you've gotten pretty strong, but those exercises cause a lot of fatigue, they hurt my joints and tendons a little bit, then simply switch it up to a variation while performing only one heavy set of that specific exercise and doing your accessory work in a different variation of the exercise. When it comes to isolation lifts, same thing, stick to it 3 to 6 months. After that, you can switch it up, make progress on that variation again. Same thing, switch it up after 3 to 6 months. That is how you rotate your exercises properly, and that is how you avoid overuse, and that is how you stay in the game for the rest of your life. Guys, I hope you've gotten value out of this video. If you did, give me a thumbs up, follow the channel and subscribe, share the video with somebody who might benefit from this information, who does not understand the concept of exercise rotation, and by all means, stay tuned for the next one. Take care.